Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Big Apple School podcast, where the goal of this show is to help you improve your English through listening skills. My name is Benjamin, and today we have three guests. Our first guest is
Ken from the Philippines.
Our second guest,
Katja.
and our third
Varya.
guest. Yes, welcome guys. So today we're going to be sharing our thoughts about traditional education, conventional education, and we'll be discussing this as teachers. And so let's get started, guys. So what do you guys think about when you hear the word conventional education? What comes to mind?
Well, the first thing that I think about is the classroom. You know, you have the teacher, and then if we're going to go really traditional, you have the blackboard. But of course, nowadays it's the whiteboard on the seats, the seating arrangement with all the students. Yeah.
So basically what we would call teacher-centered classroom. The teacher is the main figure. Everyone else is just, obeying.
So are schools in the West, in Russia, considered traditional schools still?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. When I think of Russian schools, I think of those upright desks where everyone sits with very straight posture and the desks are really small and the teachers are very strict. Is that a correct stereotype, or is that...
I think it's a stereotype. I mean, teachers are usually strict. But I mean, when you work, with kids and you have 35 kids, you don't have a choice. You have to be strict.
Yeah.
But all in all, I wouldn't say that, everyone is sitting
upright. Well,
upright.
do you know what desks I'm talking about? So Russian schools typically have they have the same desks in each classroom.
Yep.
Yeah, those really small desks where everyone is smushed together.
No, they aren't small, actually. No.
Oh, right.
I remember when it was my first time to enter an American classroom, and I saw this, single desks for one person. I thought, oh my God, that's so great, personal space. But then it turned out to be so inconvenient because you don't have enough space. You can put on, your textbook, but that's it. A place for, I do not know, your pens and pencils, whatever? No. But in Russia, our desks are for two people, and that gives enough space to have whatever you want on your desk.
And they typically have a bench underneath it. Is it a bench or is it like a chair? So I thought they were like benches and people...
No. So it's just the desk for two people and then two chairs. That's it.
Oh, okay. Well, in America, I know the classic school desk has it's attached to the chair. Is that
Right, but you're talking about older kids.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about grade school,
Yeah.
they would be big enough. And the top of the desk would be a top where you can open it. And you put all your textbooks in there. You have plenty of space. And they were lined up. And we would have about 30 or 32 in class. And it was teacher-centered, as it should be.
Right.
So wait, so every student is assigned a seat. So you don't go to different classrooms. You're always in one classroom.
Right, in grade school. You have one teacher, and when I say grade school, I'm saying first grade through sixth.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is now, but that's how I grew up.
So I would imagine that a non-conventional school would have bean bags and people lie around the classroom and...
Anarchy.
Yes. Do you think that there's something good about having the order of a classroom? Like
I think so.
order?
Because, it's better to be systematic, at least because, in my case, I'm a little bit, traditional. I want everything to be well organized. Although there should be room also for some creativity and, allowing the students to, express themselves, not just the typical teacher-centered kind of, lecture type of lesson.
Yeah, I agree with that, what you said with that, because the activity we used to have when I was growing up, recess. So every, 15 minutes, we'd have 10 minutes where we could, scream outside. And then we did have music class and art class, and we learned Spanish. So it was a great education.
Yeah.
And that's how I think it should still be. But it's not like that anymore.
When you say it's not like that anymore, what is it like now?
All I know is the next step was in California in the 1960s. And then the only next thing that I'm familiar with is my daughter, when she went to school in Georgia in 1990s.
Okay.
And so
You mean grade school?
grade school,
Yeah,
yeah.
grade
When
school,
we say, yeah. So I'm talking about grade school. I'm not talking about high school or junior high. So
Yeah.
grade school. And it was very different with that. It was much more casual, and I don't like that. I don't like casual teaching. And you said something about the bean bags. Her first grade teacher had a lamp rather than the fluorescent lights, which are very harsh, but a light with bean bags. And I thought, what is this? Are you at home? I'm more disciplined at home than she was at school.
Yeah. Well, why have educators, or not all educators, but why have some educators moved away from the traditional model? Why do some educators feel the need to experiment with?
It's the concept of children and their place in society. When I grew up, children should be seen and not heard. We understood that it was an adult society, and children must behave in the adult society. And I still think that. And then there's psychology books that were, they're a part of society and they have opinions. No, you don't. Sit there and learn.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess when you get to a certain age, then you become an adult, and then you have to learn to become an adult in the first place. Yeah. Well, so what do we think about school uniforms? Do you think school uniforms would be
I
a good
love school
part?
uniforms. I used to have a uniform at school, and I saw certain, advantages of that. First of all, it kind of helped to get rid of this. Well, I was from a poor family, and there were a lot of kids from richer families. And thanks to uniform, we didn't notice this difference. Whereas, when you don't have a uniform, you kind of see, who's wearing this posh clothes and everything, the brands, and who doesn't. So this is the first thing. The second one, I think it leads to discipline. So when you have a uniform, you know that you need to look presentable.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was more disciplined because of that. And we didn't have a uniform which was the same for everybody, but we had the rules like you need to wear some sort of a suit, let's say a skirt or trousers and a jacket of dark blue or black color, no gray, no patterns. So if it's a blouse or a shirt, it can't be bright, it can't be patterned. So some sort of, pastel colors or white. So, but if you know how when you're a teen, you want to have some sort of freedom, you want to rebel. But well, we were allowed to wear, let's say, different shoes, bright shoes, or let's say some jewelry, which was not too, not too bright, nothing too bright.
Yeah, not too gaudy. By the way, gaudy, it's like tacky. It's not tasteful.
So I loved it. I loved having a uniform, really.
Yeah. Yeah, my school, we had uniforms. We had tie, jacket, everything. And
was it the same for everyone? I mean...
Same for everyone. Yeah,
so
same for everyone.
uniform.
Yeah. Later on at school, there were different clubs at school, different societies, or different people who were on the sports team got to wear a special tie, and people who were not on the sports team had to wear the normal tie. But yeah, we had a school uniform. We always had to do up the top button of our shirts, which means to fasten the top button. And we always had to tuck in our shirts, which means to put your shirt in below your waist, also below the belt.
Into the pants.
Into the pants, or into the trousers in England.
Excuse me.
That's all right. That's okay. No, it's good. It's good to make this clear because pants in America...
Trousers.
Exactly. Pants in America and pants in England are two different things. So
don't you dare to tell, in an American way to a person on the street, I like your pants. Excuse me?
Yeah, exactly. If you say that in England, then maybe people might think you're too intimate.
Yeah, I agree with the uniform. The class gap has closed with it, and the discipline. But I didn't grow up with a uniform. Really? My sisters did because they were in Catholic schools. And so they had that. And then when I did substitute teaching, I chose specifically a Catholic school because of the uniform and because of the discipline. Like you said, it's just easier.
Yeah.
And I think it also prepares the students for the dress code in the corporate world or whatever jobs they may get in the future. So you have to look a certain way.
Yeah, I learned how to tie a tie at school, which is it sounds like a basic skill, but a lot of people can't do a tie. They can't tie a tie, and well, definitely, I agree that school uniforms do provide discipline, it provides structure. It's at school, I hated wearing school uniform, but now looking back, I think it's actually a really good idea.
I've just remembered that, we actually had a system where 5 days a week from Monday to Friday, we were wearing a school uniform, but on Saturday, we were free to wear whatever we wanted. So it's like a free day.
That's the other different thing is that Russian schools are open on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Very crazy. Crazy for us.
Yeah, we don't have Saturday schools.
Oh, really? So you only study from Monday to Friday? Oh,
but all day long. We don't have half days like Russians have. I understand.
Yeah, we had
same in the Philippines.
Yeah, we had 8:45 to I think it was 4 o'clock every day.
Yeah, that's the first shift for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I was studying, for example, the first shift was from 8:30 or from 8:45 till 4 p.m., depending on how many classes you got. And then the second shift would be from around 12 or 1 p.m. till 8 p.m.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wow.
Well, so you said this is when you were in America?
No, in Russia.
Oh, in Russia. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. So uniforms and times, they add discipline. Well, Saturday school, do you feel that Saturday school is necessary? I feel perhaps maybe it's a little too much for a kid. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's too much.
I agree.
Now looking back, I cannot understand how we managed to do that. Wake up at 6 a.m. every day, have this 7-8 classes, then come home, do homework, have extracurriculars, do sport, have time to meet with friends. How did we do that? Now I wake up at 6 a.m. 2 days in a row, I'm dead.
I'm all for having discipline, but I think it's just not viable making kids wake up so early, especially teenagers. They need to sleep longer than adults because they're growing. And when you're growing, of course, you need to recover. And
well, my students in the US told me that at school, they had classes starting at 8 a.m.
It's too early for kids. Yeah.
So, and I cannot imagine how they did that.
Yeah.
Because then, if it's 8 a.m., the school bus comes way earlier than that. So, because they have to pick up all the kids. So they had to wake up at like 6, 5:30. How?
Yeah. I went to school at 7 during my time.
That's crazy early. Yeah.
Oof.
So I guess we're all in kind of consensus here that, well, what do you feel? Do you feel early mornings, teenagers
Well, just like you said, there's some kind of study that says that teenagers are wired to stay up late and get up late. And so school should start late. And there were some experimentations with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that should change. I mean, I guess school could still be considered conventional, just even if it starts later. I don't see why it couldn't still be considered conventional or disciplined. What else can we talk about in terms of discipline? Homework. What do we think about homework? Do you feel that kids should be forced to do homework?
I think homework, it's okay, but you don't have to do it like every day just for the sake of doing it, just because it's required in the curriculum. I think, and if ever you're going to give homework as, a teacher, it has to be meaningful, not just some burden that they have to do at home, some kind of a punishment. It has to be
work.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, yeah, I'm all for that, but it doesn't have to be like all the time, only when it's necessary. Yeah. And it has to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be like, like a punishing kind of homework.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I grew up, we didn't really have homework and we didn't ever take our textbooks home. And I see kids now, and when my daughter was going to school, burdened with these heavy backpacks, and I never had to do that.
Well, we all work in the sphere of teaching languages. Do you feel that kids should be forced to do language homework, or what should language homework look like for a grade schooler?
Well, you see, as a teacher, I think that, hey, we should give some homework. But at the same time, I understand that kids have, 10 subjects at school, if not more. And then they have homework on each and every one of them. So, and it kind of builds up. So I feel sorry for the kids. So when I was working at a school, I try not to kind of, give them too much homework, not to make them, snowed under with homework, because it's too much.
True.
But I feel the thing with languages is that it takes such a long time to learn any language to a high standard. Whereas other subjects, I mean, I'm not saying you can learn history overnight. Of course you can't. But for purposes of studying history at school, you just need to learn dates and a couple of facts about some kings and queens. Whereas with languages, it's like a constant process, and you can't just come into a classroom twice a week and expect to get really good at a language. You have to be surrounded by the language at home. I mean, what would you suggest to grade schoolers or high school students learning languages? How could we force them to kind of do homework, or how can we force them to learn English better?
I think in this case, it's just better to find a hobby in English. I had situations when I had kids in a classroom who had horrible grades, but they were into, what is it, like World of Warcraft or something?
Yes.
The game. And that was an online game, and a lot of players were from other countries speaking English. And they would come to the classroom, and actually try to speak, and they could understand some things because of the game. So they got interested in English because of their hobby. So I think in this case, if you don't want to be too overwhelmed, find a hobby, watch TV shows or cartoons or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you feel education is fit for purpose when it comes to languages? So normal schools, I mean, in America, how many kids speak fluent Spanish after going to high school? I'm not talking about people with native Hispanic
Probably not
parents.
many, unless they're really going to concentrate on it. But a lot of, I'm thinking about when I was in school, we would have a native Spanish speaker, come to our classroom like once a week or twice a week, and we would learn Spanish, and it was a good exposure, and that was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is because in Russia, in England, in so many countries, not all, but in many countries, students go to school and they learn a language for 10 years, and then they leave school not being able to order a table at a restaurant or being able to do basic things in a language.
That's because of the lack of native speakers, I think.
Do you think so?
Mm-hmm.
I
do.
Or maybe, I don't know about the system, but I remember when I was learning English at school before, it was mostly about the grammar thing, grammar exercises to complete. And we learned about, language for research, very technical kind of, language, obviously in English, but we were not taught how to order something, let's say at a restaurant or book a table, anything like that. But it was more like, okay, this is the object, this is the subject. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I have a story. So right after I graduated from university, I went to work at a school, and I mean a secondary school. So, and I was so inspired, I'm going to teach these kids English. I'm going to make it fun and everything. You very quickly learn that nobody's interested in that. And I'm not meaning the kids. I mean the school and the system. So because you have a program. So, and I created, different games. I found extracts from TV shows, from movies to illustrate the topic. I had some sort of creative tasks. And then I had a talk with the headmaster who said like, hey, why are you so behind the schedule? I said, I try to pay attention so the kids actually understand and start to use these things. She said, Sheila, sorry. She just said, it doesn't matter. I said, what do you mean it doesn't matter? What is more important to you, the program and the documents or the knowledge? She said, the program. I don't care what these kids know.
Yeah.
I said, wait a second. So the textbooks are horrible. They suggest that you go through 12 different tenses within the 45-minute lesson. It's impossible. And I said, wait, but what if the kids don't understand? She said, I don't care. One person understands, you move on. It doesn't matter. That was the moment when I was disappointed in our system of education.
Yeah, that's a great explanation of the situation. In England, a lot of people learn French because France is our neighbor, and nobody can really speak good French after 10 years of school. And I think it's a real shame. And I definitely, as much as I am a fan of traditional education, I definitely feel that languages something needs to change drastically when it comes to languages. Which countries speak excellent English? Well, that's the Netherlands, Nordic countries. The Philippines, most people speak good English, don't they?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say like in the same level as those countries that you have mentioned.
Well, there's a good background knowledge. Most people can still speak English.
Of course.
Yes. So the reason why is because people watch TV in English every single day. Whereas in Russia, for instance, people don't really watch much English TV. Well, they do, but it will have the voiceovers. And we talked about this in a previous podcast. But something needs to drastically change. It can't go on the way it is. How do you feel that languages should be evaluated at schools?
Well, it has to be in a communicative form, not just the pen and paper. It has to be in terms of the production of the language. So there has to be some kind of a speaking activity. And then the teacher, him or herself, should have rubrics to follow, to evaluate, the level of the student. I mean, certain criteria that you have to look into. In the same way that, it's not just for speaking, but the same thing for writing. You do have rubrics so that you can evaluate if the student can really use certain words,
do you
sentence
think
structures.
too much importance is given to writing at schools when it comes to languages? Do you think that more? I
don't think they're writing. If you're talking about doing exercises, that's different from actually writing essays.
Writing
talking about-
essays.
You're not,
I'm talking about
I don't
writing
think
essays.
writing essays is something
not in Russia.
No.
For example. Well, nobody. Even if we talk about higher education, I spent 5 years learning the language. 12 hours a day. We were never taught how to write an essay. I had to learn it the hard
way.
way.
A lot of times it's because the professor or the teacher, whatever level, does not have enough time to correct all of that.
Yeah, it's a monstrous task. Yeah, if you have 35 students in a class, like how are you going to get through that?
Well, a lot of times these language classes only have maybe 6 to 12, right? It's not really 30 if you're talking about a higher level.
But when I was at school, my class was 25 people all together learning French. Yeah, that's...
At the university, right?
No, at school I'm talking about.
School.
Yeah, at school, yeah, when we were learning French, yeah.
When it comes to evaluation, I like the difference between, for example, Russia and the US. Because in Russia, most of the exams is just, multiple choice tests, which actually shows nothing. And it's mostly grammar tests. What does it show? Nothing. Maybe a person knows the grammar so well, but they can't speak. Whereas in the US, the most common exam, at least at the higher education, is OPI, which is oral proficiency interview.
Yeah.
So basically they evaluate how you speak and what sort of communicative tasks you can solve.
I did not even realize that. I think speaking is so much more important than being able to complete grammar exercise.
But in Russia, you ask people, hey, what do you think is the way? They say, we have the Cambridge exams. The Cambridge exams is 95% of writing and grammar and vocabulary. And if you don't know, an exact phrase, you lose the points.
Yeah.
What? But whereas, in the US, for example, in higher education, it's OPI. So you have this interview, and during the interview, they check what sort of tasks you can solve. Let's say it starts with the simpler ones, like order something in a cafe and everything. And then depending on the level, the questions get more and more difficult. So at the proficiency level or, higher advanced level, so the questions that you will be asked would be about, let's say, philosophy or the world or some sort of, major problems in the world and so on, to see how well you can analyze and express your opinion.
Yeah.
So, but not grammar.
And what do you feel about the structure of many listening tasks in exams and in schools? I personally, even in my native language, I make mistakes in these listening exercises. They're more of like short-term memory exercises. Do you feel that needs to change? Do you feel that, how would you evaluate listening? I think, personally, I feel it should be in conjunction with speaking. It should be, rather than listen to an extract for 3 minutes or 5 minutes and then try to remember all the figures, all the numbers, and write down all the numbers. What do you feel? Do you feel that that's a good exercise?
Are you talking about a foreign language?
Yeah, in a foreign language, yeah. So listening exercises where you will listen
I don't have much experience.
No, for instance, many textbooks, you will listen to an extract.
I understand your point, and I can appreciate that because, they normally go hand in hand, listening and speaking. However, you also have to understand that in life, you don't just do a lot. You don't just talk. Sometimes you watch television, there's no conversation there. Or when you listen to the radio, you simply, passively listen to it. And that's why, as much as I do understand, because sometimes some of the listening exercises, it's like a bit of a test of your memory because you have to remember certain details. But then Well, that's how it kind of works also in real life when you listen to the radio and if you or watch, TV or whatever, and then you share the story with another person. So you have to remember some details. So yeah, I mean, I understand your point, but yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the listening exercises unless you find something, questionable.
If we talk about testing, I think it's totally fine. Because let's say if we have a look at different exams, so we have the IELTS, we have the TOEFL. They have listening tasks, but they are so different. So in IELTS, you listen to a task, you fill in the gaps and everything. So it checks your understanding of the text, so how well you can understand the written, the spoken text. Let's say in TOEFL, it's a little bit of a different story because in there you have the listenings and you don't see the tasks. So you have to take notes. So it also checks your ability to take notes and to memorize information. But what I like about these tests is that they don't only have, the academic test. They have conversation, dialogue about university, a lecture, and something else. So it's a different set of situations. So when it comes to testing, it's totally fine. It's the teaching that we should change a little bit. Because mostly when we have the listening exercises, we test. We should teach how to listen. And it also requires, certain skills and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I've worked with a few students on OGE exams and YEGE exams and IELTS exams as well. And sometimes I will do the listening tests and most of the time I get 100%, but there will be times when I'm just a little tired and I miss out a little fact. And I think if a native speaker is not getting 100%, then
those listening audios are difficult. They can be
tricky. Yeah.
I actually have an example of my TOEFL exam. So when I was taking TOEFL back in 2017, there were 9 listening tasks. So it would go, one listening, you take notes because you don't see the tasks. It ends, you have 2 minutes to fill in, to do the tasks and everything. It goes on, so no pause. So, and one of the last tasks was a lecture about 3-4 minutes long. And at some point, I understood that I just dozed off for a minute. And then I was like, oh my God, I missed the whole minute of information. What was that? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Of course, I lost points, but then again, it had nothing to do with the level of the language, but more about the attention. But I'm actually glad that they reduced the number of listenings from 9 to 6 within the recent years. So, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about a lecture. You go to university, you have a 90-minute lecture.
Mm-hmm.
Still have to be able, to understand most of it. So,
yeah.
And to keep your attention, make sure that you're awake.
Exactly.
So maybe learning languages at school should be attention and language skills. Yeah, English and
keeping note skills, attention,
note
short memory.
Skills. Yeah. Well, let's come back to grade school and high school. Different types of high school. What do we feel about homeschooling? I believe, do you have experience of homeschooling?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, were you homeschooled? Or?
There was a moment with my daughter, I guess she was in 6th grade. We moved, and so she was upset about that. She didn't want to go to the new school. And so I said, okay, I'll have to homeschool you. And of course, I was working. I was, I didn't have time. I didn't really want to do it. So, well, what can I teach her? This was before I was college educated anyway, and I was not in, I didn't know anything. So I said, okay, well, I'll teach you how to type. And so I made up exercises for her to learn how to type. Because I think that's
a great skill, actually.
Yeah, I think it is useful.
Type, yeah.
And then I thought, well, I guess I can teach her the Russian alphabet.
Ooh.
So I made her write the Russian alphabet.
Wow.
And that was pretty much the extent of what I could teach. I mean, I really didn't know what to do. And so I did find some kind of distant learning thing that was accredited. And so she had to do that for a few months. And then we moved, which was a better situation. And I said, you're going to school no matter what, go.
So what's the law in the States regarding homeschooling? So you have to receive a packet of...
Yeah, it has to be some kind of accreditation. And you have to go to your local school and submit some documents or something. I don't know.
All right. So was it like a very onerous task? Was it a really difficult task?
I don't know. I didn't monitor. I said, you're on your own with this. And she did it herself, and I just mailed it. I didn't check.
Yeah. So do they have to do SATs when they're at home?
Well, this was only in 6th grade.
Oh, it was only 6th grade. But let's say, can you do homeschooling until high school?
Oh, you can do it all sorts of. A lot of religions do that. You know, they.
Also, like Amish people.
Well, Christians too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that not many people have it in themselves to be able to teach well and to know what to teach. I mean, have a look at some of the textbooks of like third graders. You would be shocked. Like, you know, sometimes I have friends who have kids now and they say, you know, my kid brings me the textbook. I look at it like, what the hell is that?
You can't understand it, right?
Right.
Right. My daughter did that too. She was so frustrated with something. I said, let me read it. And I was in college at the time. I go, oh my God, I don't even understand it didn't even make sense.
Exactly. So in this case, you know, if you want to homeschool your kid, you have to make sure that you know what you are going to teach them and how. And not many people can, you know, have that in them.
And there's a lot of motivation involved because, you know, having to do it yourself and then, of course, you know, to do it with your child, you have to make sure that it will be interesting for the child. Otherwise, I don't know how much learning will take place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that reminds me, they would do some kind of field trip. So there are organizations that homeschoolers from all over the area or local homeschoolers would attend some kind of art program or some field trip.
Oh, that's great.
And they would meet other homeschoolers.
That's amazing because otherwise, you know, they don't have great social skills sometimes. I mean, if the kid is always at home, you know, and everything. But being able to meet other homeschoolers.
And plus going to dance class or music school and other things.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, have you seen a movie, Captain Fantastic?
No.
So it's a movie where, so a family has five or six kids, but then the woman dies, so the man has to take care of the kids, and he homeschools them. And he teaches them, you know, how to survive in the wild world, teaches them history, teaches them how to think and so on. And I remember there was a moment when one of the girls is reading a book and he says, "What are you reading?" He said, "Lolita." And he asks, "What do you think?" He said, "It's interesting." And everyone just shouts, "Interesting is a banned word. You know, you can't say interesting." He said, "Because that's not what you think. So tell me what you think. How do you feel?" And in this case, you know, you watch this movie like, damn.
Yeah, that is because that word is something we just kind of fall back on, right?
Right.
Interesting. And it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, definitely.
So if you ever want to know more about homeschooling, watch this movie. It's really great. Kind of shows the both sides, you know.
Well, I feel homeschooling provides people an opportunity to learn the most essential life skills, whereas school, to be honest, you learn a lot of nonsense.
I don't know. When I was growing up in the 60s and the early 70s, I went to high school. It was before the women's movement, or it was during it, the second wave. And the girls had to take home economics. We had to learn how to cook and sew.
Well, that's a great subject. Yeah,
That
I'm
is
100.
great.
But I'm talking about, I mean, I'm not dissing history or geography because I'm personally really interested in both of those subjects, but I don't really see the value of teaching bored children physical geography.
Oh no!
I don't see the value.
There's you got to know the world. Yeah.
Well, no,
care.
the maps. I'm talking about physical geography, like structures of mountains. And
I think that's
features.
very important. Yeah,
You feel
yeah.
so?
Even if you don't understand it or you're not going to retain it, at least you got to be exposed to it.
I mean, I read about this stuff at my age because I'm really interested in it, but I don't know if it's worth showing
it's
a
definitely worth
12-year-old.
it. Yeah, just
You
an
know,
introduction.
Yeah.
I believe that, you know, we have to have an opportunity to learn all those things. So let's say when I was at school, we had astronomy, which now kids do not have at school. But I was really happy that we had it. But at the same time, it really makes me sad that neither school nor university actually prepare us for the real life sometimes. I mean, this class that you mentioned, Varya, amazing. We had that. We learned how to cook, how to sew,
I think it's
how to
great,
knit.
yeah.
The guys learn how to use the different tools, and instruments. But at the same time, I just wish we also had some classes on basic psychology, that people are different, have some sort of emotional intelligence classes, or for example, taxes.
I know what you mean.
Just to explain us how the world works, how taxes work.
Yeah, definitely. But that's the other thing is now we live in the age of the internet and we have access to so much information that we previously did not have. When I was at school, the internet was still kind of very basic, and I wish we had YouTube to learn all these history facts and stuff. And
When you're like 13, 14-year-old, you don't even know the term emotional intelligence. You don't know about empathy or different, let's say, mental states and everything. So, and nobody would even have an idea to search for that because they don't know it exists.
Okay, well, in America, those kinds of things did exist. In the 1950s, 1960s, they're called public announcements. And if you can Google it, you'll see these black and white videos of the proper way of having dinner. And the proper way, etiquette, proper way of, entering a party, leaving, emotional intelligence. Google it. You will be so fascinated.
Oh, you had that? Oh my God.
I've seen some of them on YouTube.
Yes.
I wish we had anything like that, to be honest. Never we had anything like that in Russia. So,
I mean, my personal opinion, I think schools should be vocational. I mean, I think all schools should be vocational, even at like a younger age. I don't think...
Define vocational.
So vocational meaning that it prepares you for a job after school. That's we do have vocational schools everywhere, but I feel that that's what schools should be.
What about the humanities where you're learning about history?
I'm fascinated by that, but
philosophy.
I feel that my personal opinion is that that's not necessary for a kid.
Oh, I disagree.
I feel that it's just overload of information, in my opinion.
I'm on Team Varya.
Yeah, you've got to be exposed to it so that you can learn appreciation, or at least be exposed where you just know what philosophy might entail certain basic.
In this case, I kind of like the system of Finnish education. Do you know about Finland?
Yeah. It's more relaxed.
It's considered to be one of the best, educational systems in the world because they have the obligatory subjects like math, the language, art. Actually, I think it's one of the obligatory subjects. And I think science as well. But then at the same time, they have a lot of subjects that a kid can choose, like electives, I think they're called.
Yeah, electives, yeah.
So, and then if you feel like you're more into art, you can take other art classes. And then again, art can be different. So it can be deeper literature, or let's say creative arts or music. If you feel like you're more into sciences, you just, choose more of scientific subjects like physics, chemistry, you name it. So, I like it when kids have a choice of some sort.
What do you think?
Yeah, we had the same thing. The ones that we were obligated to, and then the electives.
Yeah, the same case. I think it's still important to learn the basics, and just like what you've said, and a certain amount of exposure, not necessarily getting into the nitty-gritty, details of things, like very technical, because you reserve that for higher education once you decide what specialization to take. But I think it's good to be exposed to many different
Yeah, we call
facets.
that being well-rounded, right?
Exactly,
being well-rounded.
Right. And then you decide for yourself later on, okay, which one you would like to specialize in depending on your interests.
I have a question, if I may. So how does it work in the US, in the Philippines, and in Britain? So when you're at school, so do you have the same sort of subjects? I mean, you don't get to choose things when you're in high school. Like, how does that work?
So in the UK, we have GCSEs and then you have A-levels. GCSEs are kind of like the old year of England, and A-levels are like the year of England or the UK. And the GCSEs, you have to do maths, English language, English literature, basic sciences. You also have to do... You get to choose 3 subjects. So I could choose...
That's a lot of exams.
Yeah. Oh, we had 11. It was way too much.
Oh my God.
It was way too much. I chose geography, art, and something else. It's not important. But yeah, we had 11 subjects. And my personal opinion is that at school, kids should just do maths and English. That's it.
That's kind of what we do.
Maths, English, home economics. That's it. No history, no geography. Just basic bones.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad no one else agrees with you. I
feel it should just be
so sad.
And then the teacher says, "Go home, watch YouTube, paint a picture at home."
I think Benjamin means more like the exams, not just the study, but take the exam in like math and English.
We have the internet now for humanities, and that's what it's there for.
You need a teacher.
Someone to guide.
At school, I'm so interested in humanities now at an older age, and I watch YouTube documentaries about history.
You majored in humanities.
Well, languages, I guess. I guess it is. Yeah. Well, yes.
I mean, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah, that's
but,
part of humanities, part of foreign languages.
But I wish.
Sorry to break
we're
it.
We're going to come. we are. I know,
humanities.
but coming back to education, I feel that university. I learned. I mean, not dissing my university because it's a great university, but I wish I just learned language. There was so much history and other cultural stuff that I learned that I just felt it's kind of a waste of time. Like I'm here to learn a language.
That's interesting.
What do you guys feel? Do you feel that?
Well, okay, to be fair, I also felt that way too when I was at school. I thought, what do I need this for? Especially with a little bit of the IT sphere, like programming. And I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to be a programmer someday. Like, I don't need this. But, okay, I may not have liked it, but then at least it exposed me a little bit on computer terms so that, now as an adult, I'm not really totally ignorant about such terms. So, it wasn't really good, but I feel like it's kind of necessary.
Well, the reason why I ask is that in a lot of schools in Russia, after the 9th grade, you get to choose, what to do later. And then in a lot of schools, including mine, where I studied, we had to choose whether we go to a class that is focusing on humanities, the one that focuses on math, or just, the general one. So, and for example, I was in the class that was focusing on humanities. So, which means that in the 10th grade, it was all the usual subjects, but in the 11th grade, we had no chemistry, no geography, no biology, because within 1 year in the 10th grade, we had to cover the program of 2 years.
Yeah.
But we did have 10 lessons of literature, 6 lessons of Russian, 6 lessons of English, 4 lessons of German, 6 of literature, and 6 of social studies.
Yeah.
And that was a lot. 10 lessons of literature.
Well, there's a huge generational gap here because, of course, I went to school a lot earlier than any of you.
Yeah.
And we didn't have all these tests that you're talking about. I'm not familiar with them. I don't care about them. We just weren't burdened by these things.
I just want to make something clear. Like I'm not dissing humanities as well. And I know you guys love humanities. I love humanities too. But I just feel like teenage kids get bored by this stuff. Quite frankly, a lot of my classmates were falling asleep at school. And
Depends on
again,
the
is that
kid.
it's just the exposure. I'm repeating myself.
Yeah.
Just looking at it and going, oh, I don't like it and it bores me. At least they know.
Yeah. Well, I believe that kids should know where to access information if they're truly interested in it. So, I mean, now
it's kind of easier.
It's much easier. And that's my point is that school, in my opinion, school should just be there to learn the basic life skills, prepare you for life. All the other interesting, amazing stuff like literature and humanities, that should be done at home. Like as for fun. I feel exams are so burdensome for kids, and like I just remember.
You see my face, right?
Yeah. But I just feel go to school, learn basic maths, learn basic language skills, maybe a bit of IT too.
Oh, okay. You're talking about, let's say, literature.
Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful, Katya, to read something and then want to discuss it with someone?
Well, for languages, I do agree, absolutely. But
I wish we had this opportunity when we had literature classes. But in my case, it was more of a lot of reading. And then if your opinion did not, coincide with the teacher's opinion, then you were wrong.
Yeah.
So there were 2 opinions, our teacher's and the wrong one.
But at least that you could hear one person's opinion, the teacher, and then you could have yours. At least that was something. But you're saying you're sending us home and we have to read by ourselves and talk.
No, you don't have to. You can if you want to. That's the main
point. That you
Me-
won't
And do many people want to?
At school,
Oh,
I
you're a
had.
very disciplined young man, Benjamin.
But if you think about it,
you really think that people are gonna go home and open up some kind of book when
no, they won't. They won't. They won't.
That's why they need to sit in class and be made to do it.
But my opinion is that teenagers are only going to remember. Don't we all agree? We want teenagers to retain information.
No, who cares? Who cares about the memory? I'm talking about the exposure, the very base level of exposure and choice.
I just feel that if you're going to teach something, you might as well make the people remember it.
You just
off
flicking
a
off a whole
What's the point in
idea.
teaching if people don't remember things?
The idea, when you teach, the idea is not to make the kids remember. So you're not stuffing them like a turkey, with the stuffing like with
Well, of
facts.
course, yeah, but
the idea is to, through literature, for example, you make them think and analyze. And this is a skill, that is, well, I believe should be one of the most important ones in school, to teach people how to think.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is called critical thinking,
Right.
right? And we learn that through philosophy. We learn it through mathematics. We learn it through literature. We learn by talking. Like, what do you think? What do I think? I don't understand this, teacher. Explain it to me. And the teacher who's more experienced can explain it, give a broader perspective.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, at school, I remember I had this classmate who he was so bad at everything. He failed every single subject. He got, do you know what a U grade is? A U in England used to be like the worst grade. It was like a dvojka, like a number 2. He got U's and D's for everything. But I remember one thing. He remembered every single football score for the last, I think it was like 40 years. Like if you said to him, what was the score between Chelsea and Arsenal in 1980, whatever?
But guess what that is? That's history.
Yeah.
That's sport history.
But he remembered that information because he played stupid video games at home. Or
Okay, so what did he grow up to be?
I have no idea. Probably prison. I don't know. I don't know. But the point is that he remembered this information because he enjoyed it. And what I want to say is that if we're going to teach history and geography, which I still have to say again, great subjects, we have to make it in a way that's enjoyable for kids.
But that's history though. Everything has history. Everything. This table has history. Everything has history.
And to be honest, most teenage boys don't care. Well, I don't know about teenage girls. I can't speak for teenage girls,
either.
but they don't care either.
Nobody cares.
And what's the point in we'd have this expression in English, as we all know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's why I feel like these teenagers are not going to drink the water.
Perhaps you're a nihilist.
I'm not a nihilist, actually. No, I'm actually opposite. Yeah.
I think, it all boils down to how the subject is taught. Because let's be fair, there are also people who don't like mathematics but are forced to learn them because you need to learn that. In life, you need to calculate, right? So it's not just for humanities. Yeah. I mean, of course.
Well, I always think math should be essential.
I understand that. I mean, it is essential, but mathematics is not for everyone. It's not for me, but I still have to learn it.
Not trigonometry, not...
I understand that. But in the same way that humanities on the basic level should still be taught because we need to be multifaceted, like well-rounded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then again, it's I think the work of the teacher to make sure that no matter how boring the subject may be, that it will still be enjoyable, at least to most students. Yeah.
I feel
well, if you read my creative nonfiction by Varya, called Mathematics, A Passion for Numbers, you'll know the story of me being in remedial high school math with a bunch of really cool guys who reeked of cigarette smoke and weed, and they rode motorcycles, and I was stuck in this class. And we were learning algebra, and I shouted out, it's a true story, what is life? And the student teacher just kept on writing. She just completely ignored me. But that's what I really wanted to know was, what is life? And then decades later, I went to college, and college equals university. I went to university. And I had to take algebra. And it was so logical. And I was so grateful to be made to be in mathematics class. But of course, I appreciated it many decades later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love maths too, actually, and I was never particularly good at maths, but later in life I came to it.
And do you know that the British say maths and we Americans say math? Do you know that?
Without an S.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Of course, mathematics,
well,
but the short version is just
so
math.
in British it's maths?
Yes.
With an S.
Yes.
And in American math.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
That.
Yeah, me too. And that's really
so
funny.
You know.
Thank you.
Really?
That's actually a really good point, actually.
I had to learn a foreign language when I got here with all this British English. Like, what is that?
You see, I have a hard time pronouncing maths. I just say math because that's how we do it in the Philippines, like the American way.
American, right.
Right.
to be honest, when learning English, I always suggest to students, unless you're going to go live in England, learn American English. It's more widespread. People understand it. Even in the UK.
I'm going to quote you then on that. Say my British colleague says.
No, I definitely, even though, of course, I love my country and everything, I definitely suggest, learn American English, because if we say some English words in America, it sounds really funny, or a lot of people don't even understand.
I fancy that. Do you fancy?
Yeah.
I fancy that.
Or if I said, I'm going to pop to the shops.
Yes, pop.
Yeah, pop.
All right.
Yeah, so
pop up, pop down.
What
pop
did you
in,
say
pop
about my dad? So yeah, but
As a foreigner, in the US, I also had situations because I was taught British English at university, and then I went to the US, and people corrected me all the time. They're like, "Oh, that's a mistake," and I was like, "That's not a mistake."
Yeah, exactly.
Why in Russia is British English the standard English taught here?
So close.
I mean, Alaska is like right next door. Oh, well, that is
I don't
Russia.
know.
But
I
that's
don't know,
Far
but-
East.
Yeah.
But it is actually a standard, to teach British English.
It's the same in Kazakhstan. All the English textbooks are, published in the UK, and it's mostly British English that they're learning there.
It is strange. I definitely feel that it'd be more useful for people to learn American English, to be quite honest, because in Britain, we all watch American TV. Everyone understands what a truck is, but if we go to America and say a lorry...
So what is that? I had to look it up at the dictionary when I got here. I was like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
I also had to correct one of my students who we were talking about the word cozy, and I said, spell it. And so I was right. No, I guess I must have written COZY, because we use Z's.
Yeah.
And
she said, no, it's with an S. I said, no, it's not. And then I had to, when I saw her the next 2 years later, I said, I have to apologize to you. I had no idea that was a British spelling. I apologize. It is correct for the Brits.
The very fact that you say Z
Yeah.
as well, because it's Z.
That's right. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. So, all right. So I think we're all in agreement with American English. I guess we could say that. Yeah. American English is better to concentrate on. And also, if you do IELTS, you can only choose American English or British English. You can't mix
Which
and match
makes me so mad, because right now I do not even differentiate anymore in my head. Like, what is this phrase? Is it American? Is it British? I don't know.
I try to
some
make
days
it a
you feel
point.
American, some days you feel British.
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah. I try to make it a point. Okay, just like we'll read something in Cambridge books.
Yeah.
And I'll say, just for fun, I just want you to know what we say in America, just for
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
But if you're going to take a British test, you better use it this one.
I mean, sometimes you don't even know. Let's say I know the phrase cut in line.
Yeah.
I had no idea it's like only an American thing, because in Britain you say a different thing, like
Q.
Like jump the queue.
Jump the queue.
Right.
Exactly.
no idea. So I just learned this phrase without understanding whether it's British or American.
Yeah, or cut it out. We don't really say that in England. We say,
Stop it, cut
stop
it out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
American. Yeah, and in English we just say, oi.
Oi?
or stop it.
Oi.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, let's come on to university. We talked a lot about school and learning languages in general. Let's talk more about university. So obviously we have a little bit of a division between the studying of humanities, whatever. There's going to be disagreements. No one can 100% agree with things. But do you feel that, what advice would you give to a 20-something or to a late teen? Would you tell teenagers to, let's say an American teenager now, where tuition fees are really expensive, would you suggest go study art? And I love art. I paint myself, but would you tell a teenager to go to art college and spend thousands and thousands of dollars?
I mean, look, what I love about about higher education system in the US is that usually you get to university, you spend your first year when you're a freshman just studying the basic thing and seeing what you're interested in. And then by the end of the second year, you have to claim your major. In Russia, it's not like that. You enter a specific university knowing your major.
And UK
when you
too.
apply.
Yeah.
And then you can imagine, for example, I just turned 16 when I had to apply for university. I had no idea what I wanted to be at that moment. Nobody did. So which is why very often, kids enter university and then in their third year, they understand that's not what they want to do.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's horrible.
And then you have a choice, either to finish, to complete your degree and then to study again or try to get a job, which is not, your major, or drop out and start it all altogether, like from the very beginning. And it's difficult.
But I would definitely recommend anybody to go to college. There is something so valuable about those core courses. I don't care how old you are, a teenager, older, you've got to get that college education because it just opens up your mind. It just broadens. I'm a completely different person pre and post college educated.
This is one thing that surprises me because a lot of the students that I have here in Russia, like they have a different specialization at university, and then when they start working, it's a totally different job. I wonder though, don't you have like career orientation? Because I remember before graduating at our school, we had this, like psychological testing and then orientation. So it kind of helped us or guided us, and it worked because a lot of us before graduating, we kind of knew already, okay, this is what I intend to do in the future. So
They are just, okay, I'm not allowed to swear. So just nonsense because, they're very limited in the amount of professions that they actually, offer. So I remember we had such classes, and everything. And I was told that I would make a good accountant. I can't even count very well. What are you talking about? Never wanted to be one. Hated math. So, and, nowadays we live in a such fast-paced world. It's impossible to, predict what sort of area you would like to work in because the world is changing too fast. Let's say IT, you start studying, 5 years later, there isn't such a profession anymore. The world is different. So I think that those orientation tests or something are just, not really helpful. Unless
But
you're
you do
absolutely
have that,
lost.
right?
But we do have that, yeah.
well, just to be clear.
Well, let's pretend we are all employers. Let's say, I don't know, we work for a IT company. What's more important? Someone's education or what experience they have?
Okay, that depends on the job. Because let's say IT sphere, experience and skills is more important. Just because, let's say, in Russia, you can't get education in a lot of spheres.
Yeah.
As my fiance is in the game development industry.
Yeah.
There is no degree in game development. There is nothing like that.
Yeah,
now.
well, at least they're very rare, yeah.
So it's only just, appearing in Russia. So that's why, for them, education doesn't matter. If you have it, but it's a different major, okay. If you don't have it, fine.
The reason why I'm saying this is because the UK and the US, like our generation, there's so many people who do liberal arts degrees, and I'm one of them. And a lot of people just end up like not knowing what to do after university. And those who do engineering and medicine, they get a job and and I think humanities is like a hobby, and it shouldn't be a school thing.
I wish it was a well-paid hobby.
Yeah. So I mean, my opinion is that a lot of jobs require university education. If you want to be a teacher, you got to go to university or college. Yeah, you got to do it. I mean,
one thing that it shows is that you did commit yourself, you got up, you were in class, you took the test, you wrote those research papers, and that you are reliable. That's what that degree could mean.
Reliable, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just reliability, but it's not really a skill, is it?
I don't know. It just changes the whole person if you go.
Exactly.
It's just
So
really,
while you study, you become a different person.
Yes.
You get new skills.
Yes.
And then, you see, you want to get a good job, let's say. You want to show what kind of a person you are. And usually university degree helps you do that. And
because you're exposed to different kinds of people and you're learning the history of different people and the cultures.
Well, yeah. I mean, guys, let us know what you feel. If you have a 17-year-old son or daughter, what would you advise them to do? Would you advise them to go to university? Would you advise them to, my personal advice would be become a plumber. If you don't like it, change your career later. At least you have some good skills. But what would you advise, Ken, to your 17-year-old son or daughter?
Well, to be honest, if I were to become a father someday, hypothetically, but
second conditional.
So I would still encourage my child to go get a degree, because let's face it, in society it's really very important, especially in the Philippines. Although in life I understand that you may have a degree, but it doesn't really define you as a person or what your future will be. However, I'm a very realistic person, and unfortunately, a diploma is very necessary in my country in order
a lot
to
of
land
places
a job.
it is, yeah.
I mean, if you want to get at least a high-paying job, you need to have a degree.
Yeah.
So I will still, I would still encourage my child to get a degree, but then at the end of the day, it's up to my child to decide what he or she, she would like to do with it, because you could still change your mind. And just because you studied a particular major doesn't mean that that's the only job that you could do, because we possess a lot of skills, and in your lifetime you will discover some other potentials that you may have, and so you could always change your job.
When my daughter was 17, I told her, I said, you are going to go to a university. She did not want to go. And so I said, okay, let's go take a tour of a university that looks like Harry Potter. It's called Oglethorpe University.
Oh, cool.
It's one of those Gothic architecture. I said, here you go. How would you like to go here? And she loved it. So she did go.
I love the fact that, in America and in Britain, I think they have these tours, the potential students come in, they get a chance to talk to students, to see what it's like.
Sit in on a class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean, my main concern is that in America, at least, and in the UK, well, more America, student loans are, you have to pay them back. And in
that's
America,
another story.
In America, even if you declare bankruptcy, you still have to pay your student loans. You can't; those loans don't get forgiven.
If your salary is lower, is kind of low, you can actually set your payback to 0.
Oh, really?
And it will be all legal.
Oh, so that's the same as the UK. I didn't realize that. Yeah, because the UK, if you earn under, I think it's £21,000 a year, you don't have to pay back your student loans.
Well, no, you do have to pay it back, but you have to set it to 0. So you're technically paying it back, but you're paying back 0.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then okay, just go to college and
and then just be poor the rest of your life, so you can just set it to 0.
So yeah,
I'm speaking from experience. You know this.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of new courses that are available now online as well. For instance, there are many different platforms. I think Udemy or other different
Coursera.
Oh, Coursera! I love Coursera.
I mean, how much does a typical course on those platforms
those are
cost?
free.
They're
Unless
free?
you want to get...
They're free, but if you want to get a certificate, and you want to have your homework checked by a professor, then you have to pay. And usually, it varies from like $100 to like several hundred. But then again, if you just want to get the task and the homework, it's absolutely free.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I didn't even know that. So maybe I shouldn't have gone to university. Maybe I should have just... Yeah. But for languages, guys, maybe don't go to university. Come to the Big Apple School, and we can we can teach you English pretty well.
Depends on what you want to learn in languages.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, I think if you...
I mean, look, I have a degree in languages. So I had 5 years of learning the language, but it's not just the language. So of course we had the vocabulary classes, the grammar, everything, like hundreds of hours.
And your English is excellent.
Oh,
so
yes.
Sorry not to blow smoke.
Your opportunity.
Your English is excellent.
And I envy how you speak.
Aww.
But you said before that your classes were, 12? How many hours a week did you have?
So we had around 6-7 hours of classroom time. And then, of course, you had about 5-6 hours a day of doing homework.
6 days a week.
Yeah, that's how you learn a language, right?
Exactly.
But at the same time, we had my point was that we also had the history of language, theoretical grammar, theoretical phonetics, how the language appeared, how it developed. And I have a couple of, group mates who got into that and they became scholars. So, they found themselves in science, in linguistics as science. So it's not only...
How many years did you say? So
5.
You said 5 years. So 5 years.
And I say only 5 because that just doesn't sound like a long time compared to people who go like for 12 years.
5 years, 6 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because most degrees, like
That's
when I went to
thousands of
university, it
hours.
was about, I don't know, 7 hours a week. A week, not a day. a week. And then you have to do essays at home about not even in Russian or Italian, which was my degree, Russian and Italian.
No, in our case, most of the time we have classroom time. And then we had most of the classes in English,
All right, yeah.
Lectures in English.
Your
right.
degree is definitely worth it.
Yeah,
definitely worth it.
I'm really grateful to my university for what they
that's
do.
amazing. Like, I'm not dissing my university because at research level it produces great researchers.
But, at the same time, if I may, I had about 600 or maybe 700 hours of methodology, how to teach and psychology.
Yeah.
Yet I would say I was not prepared. My first year of teaching, I had no idea what to do when one of my students just stood up and started banging his head on the wall. I'm like,
that's where experience, nothing can take place of experience.
Yeah.
True.
But all in all, very grateful.
Well, if the question is university worth it? I'd say, well, of course, do your research. Of course, everyone would do their research before going to university or college. But if you're going to go to university to study languages, probably best to go somewhere where, for instance, Katia went to, where you get a lot of tuition. That's kind of like, you almost had like a medical student kind of hours. At my school, my university, medical students got about the same amount of training as you had. Whereas, other subjects, it was just a few hours a week and go read at home. And so depends on the university, depends on the subject. And
I'd say if you contemplating whether to go or not, have a degree at university, it's a yes with capital letters, really. Go, get it.
Depends on the country. I think.
Anywho, get it.
I think Oxford, Cambridge, go if you're lucky, if you're clever enough to go to Oxbridge. If it's
you're setting the bar way too high.
Yeah, if it's not
way too high.
If it's not, go become a plumber or electrician. It's a much more useful life skill.
Well, if that's what you think.
That's just my opinion, guys. Just my opinion. Or if you want to do languages, come to a language school. Or come to a language school, and of course, watch a lot of TV at home in that language to improve your language skills. So let us know what your thoughts. Maybe you really disagree with me. Maybe you love me. I don't know. let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And also check out our website, which is www.bigappleschool.com, where you can get more information on the courses we offer. You can also listen to other interesting podcasts like this one and videos and other cool stuff like that too. So we'll see you next time, guys. Bye
See
for
ya.
now.